Client concentration can put your P&L at risk because we tend to overservice these big relationships that make up such a huge chunk of our revenue. And each time we let the scope slip in an effort to try and keep this client happy, it starts to erode our profitability. There's tremendous value in these long-standing client relationships. From time to time, though, the profitability from one of these relationships starts to erode. And maybe it's because the familiarity has increased so much. They're a nice client. We enjoy working with them, so we start to over-deliver. The scope starts to creep, and we start to let it slide. And then, of course, our profitability starts to slide. And it's hard for us to go have a conversation with these long-standing clients. Maybe it's because they're just a nice guy and you want them to continue to use your services. Maybe it's because there's such a huge chunk of your revenue. And frankly, we're just not in the business of losing business. So no one likes to have a hard conversation about underpricing services. But there's strategies that you can use to have a tough conversation with the client and return your P&L to profitability. Knowing when to have a hard conversation with a client is difficult. It's a delicate balance of risk versus reward, right? Revenue versus losing the client. Where do we want to draw the line? Maybe it's a marquee client and we're comfortable breaking even on that client. At the same time, it's important to look at that relationship and say, okay, a marquee client, we might want to be comfortable breaking even, but we shouldn't be comfortable losing our shirts on it. When you find that it's time to have the difficult conversation with the client about scope and about price, I find that it's most effective to just have a simple, transparent conversation about this is what we expected it to take, and here's what it really took. And this is what we think it's going to look like going forward. And here's what it's going to cost. You'll find that most of your clients want you to be successful and they want you to be profitable. And accordingly, most of them are going to be reasonable in this conversation. Client concentration can put your P&L at risk because we tend to overservice these big relationships that make up such a huge chunk of our revenue. And each time we let the scope slip in an effort to try and keep this client happy, it starts to erode our profitability. And that's why it's so important that we're also spending time servicing our other clients, and we're also spending time developing new business so that when one of these relationships goes away, we have new business to replace it. Every client relationship has its ups and downs, and there's always a situation where you have to do a make good, or you just decide for business reasons that we're going to go the extra mile here. But when you're looking at your client profitability report and you're seeing several months of losses, it's probably time to have a conversation with the client about scope and about fees. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, your unprofitable client isn't receptive to the difficult conversation, and you have to let that client go. And what you'll typically find in those cases is letting that relationship go frees up so much capacity that you now have to help grow the profitable relationships and go develop new ones.